जो राजा और रानी बनते हैं नहीं।
Peter! Edmund!
Okay, so real talk. Imagine you are a kid, like 7, maybe 8 years old. You are hiding in the back of someone's closest during a game of hide and seek. And you are pushing further and further between the courts, right? And then it doesn't end. The courts just keep going, and then your foot hits something that feels like snow, and you look down, and there's literally a whole world on the other side. That's it. That's the entire pitch. And honestly, that pitch should not work. A wardrobe leading to another dimension, written by some Oxford professor in the 1950s for children. How is that one of the most beloved fantasy stories ever put on paper and then on screen? But here's the thing that really messes with me when I think about this movie. It's not just a fantasy adventure, it's actually this incredibly layered story about grief, about the weight of responsibility that gets dumped on kids who are way too young to carry it, about betrayal and forgiveness, about sacrifice that doesn't feel earned until you sit with it for a while. And the 2005 film, I have opinions, a lot of them, some of which have actually changed over the years, honestly, because when I first watched this as a kid, I just thought it was cool. But watching it now as an adult, you start seeing things you completely missed the first time. Things C.S. Lewis buried in there almost a century ago that are still relevant, weirdly, uncomfortably relevant. So let's talk about it. Let's really dig into this one.
Alright, so before we get into the deep stuff, let me give you just a quick lay of the land if you somehow have not seen this film or if it's been a while. The year is 2005. Walt Disney Pictures and a company called Walden Media, which was known for adapting books for family audience, they team up to bring C.S. Lewis's famous novel to the big screen. The director is Andrew Adamson, who at this point was best known for making Shrek, yes, the green orgy guy. So there's already something interesting happening there. You have got this man who directed a comedy fantasy animated film for DreamWorks, and now he's being handed one of the most beloved fantasy novels in English literary history and told make this work, and honestly he mostly did. The story follows four siblings: Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy parents. They are British kids during World War II, and because the Nazis are bombing London, their mother sent them to the countryside to stay with this eccentric old professor named Gregory Kirk, played by Jim Broadbent. And while they are there during a game of hide and seek, the youngest, Lucy, played by a first-time actress named Georgie Henley, who was literally 10 years old when they filmed this. She crawls into a wardrobe and finds herself in a completely different world called Narnia. Now Narnia is stuck in an external winter, like it's always been winter for 100 years and it's never Christmas, which by the way is just one of the best way I have ever heard anyone describe a bleak, miserable existence. Always winter, never Christmas. That sentence alone hits different when you are an adult going through a rough patch. The villain keeping Narnia in this frozen state is the White Witch, Jadis, played by Tilda Swinton, who was apparently the very first person cast in this entire production because no one else could be considered for that role, and standing against her is this great golden lion named Aslan, voiced by Liam Neeson, who is exceptionally well. We shall get into that. The film has a budget of around $180 million. It runs about 2 hours and 23 minutes, and it was released in December 2005, making it a holiday season blockbuster. That's the surface level, but trust me, there is so much more going on underneath all of it, and that's what we are here for. Okay, so I said I was not going to just recap the whole movie scene by scene. I'm not, but there are specific moments in this film that I think deserve real attention. Moments where the movie is either doing something brilliant or something that really frustrated me, or something that hit you differently as an adult than it did as a child. Let me walk you through the ones that stuck. The film does not start with a wardrobe. It does not start with a fairy tale voiceover. It starts with the inside of a German bomber cockpit and bombs dropping on London. And then we cut to the Pevens family scramble to a bomb shelter. I want to stop here for a second because this is actually a really deliberate creative choice that I think gets overlooked. By starting with the war, by starting with this incredibly real, terrifying human threat, the film is grounding you before it ever takes you to Narnia. It's saying these are real kids with a real war, with a real absent father and a real scared mother. The magic is not an escape from nothing, it's an escape from something genuinely horrible. And then there's this teeny moment that the film used to establish Edmund's character. As the family is running to the shelter during the bombing, Edmund runs back inside the house, which is dangerous, which is almost suicidal in that moment, and he grabs a photo of his father, and Peter screams at him, "You are so selfish, why can't you just do as you are told?" Now think about that exchange. Edmund risked his life to save a photo of his dad. That's not selfishness, that's grief. That's a boy who misses his father desperately and can't say it out loud, and his older brother, who's also grieving, by the way, responds with hostility. The entire Edmund arc is set up right there in that one teeny scene, and if you blink, you miss it. This is the scene that made the movie. I'm serious. If this scene had been bad, if it had felt cold or rushed or just technically competent but emotionally empty, the entire film falls apart because everything hinges on you believing in the wonder. And here's the thing, they did something incredibly clever with Georgie Henley, the actress playing Lucy. They kept her away from the Narnia set completely until the cameras were rolling. So the first time she ever walked through that wardrobe and saw the snowy forest with the lamppost, that was literally her first time seeing it. Her surprise and her delight and her wonder, that's 100% real. That's not acting, that's a 10-year-old actually experiencing something magical for the first time, and you can feel it, you can absolutely feel it. The lamppost in the snow is such a specific, strange, beautiful image. Like, why is there a Victorian lamppost in the middle of a magical forest? It's make no logical sense, and yet it feels completely right. It feels like something from a dream that you can't quite explain, but that you know you have had before. C.S. Lewis understood that fairy tale logic does not have to be rational, it just has to feel true. The meeting with Mr. Tumnus, the faun, played by Jan Amsivoy, is also doing a lot of heavy lifting here because Tumnus is technically supposed to hand Lucy over to the White Witch. That's his job, that's what he was going to do, and he does not. He has a crisis of conscience and he helps her instead. And Amsivoy plays this with such warmth and such subtle guilt that you completely fall for him. He is genuinely one of the best things in this movie. This is probably the scene that has been analyzed the most, and for good reason. So Edmund follows Lucy into Narnia separately, and the very first person he meets is the White Witch riding in her sleigh, and she gives him hot Turkish delight, enchanted Turkish delight that makes you want more and more, and you can never be satisfied. And in exchange for this food, she wants him to bring his siblings to her. Now, on the surface, this is just a villain tempting a child with candy, and sure, that's what it is. But look at what the witch is actually exploiting. Edmund is already feeling marginalized. He is the second youngest, which means he is neither the responsible elders nor the coddled baby. Peter constantly talks down to him. He's never the favorite. He never gets taken seriously. And then this person he meets is the White Witch riding in her sleigh, and she gives him hot Turkish delight, enchanted Turkish delight that make you want more and more, and you can never be satisfied. And in exchange for this food, she wants him to bring his siblings to her. Now on the surface, this is just a villain tempting a child with candy, and sure, that's what it is. But look at what the witch is actually exploiting. Edmund is already feeling marginalized. He is the second youngest, which means he is neither the responsible elders nor the coddled baby. Peter constantly talks down to him. He is never the favorite. He never gets taken seriously. And then this White Witch shows up, and she calls him a son of Adam, which to us sound like nothing, but in Narnia that's actually meaningful. She treats him with respect. She tells him he's special. She promises him power over his sibling. She says he shall be a king. Think about this from Edmund's perspective for a second. This kid has spent his whole life being told to be quiet, to follow orders, to be more like Peter, and the first person who treats him like he actually matters is the villain. That's dark, that's actually really dark, and the Turkish delight is such a perfect symbol because it tastes incredible but it gives you nothing real. It fills you up with emptiness. It makes you chase something that you will never actually satisfy you. That's not a children's story. That's a description of how addiction works, or how social media work, or how any kind of hollow, flattering manipulation works. Okay, this is the moment. This is the scene that made grown adults cry in movie theaters in 2005, and I understand why. So Aslan, who has agreed to give himself up to the White Witch in Edmund's place because of a deep magic and ancient law, he walks to the stone table alone. Well, not totally alone. Lucy and Susan follow him secretly, and they watch from a distance. And the way this scene is filmed, the way they strip Aslan of his mane, the way the creatures of the witch mock him, the way he is tied down and the witch raises her knife, it's incredibly quiet for a blockbuster film. There is no score blasting over it to tell you how to feel. It just happens. And Lucy and Susan sitting there watching, not being able to stop it, just witnessing it. This is genuinely devastating to watch because you understand what's being asked of them. They have to watch something they love be destroyed and they can't do anything. Now the religious allegory here is absolutely unmistakable, and I shall go deep on that later when we talk about the themes. But even if you strip away all of the theology, even if you approach this as a purely secular story, a powerful good being choosing to die for a guilty party who does not deserve it, just emotionally devastating on its own terms. That's just a heartbreaking premise, no matter what framework you put it in. This resurrection scene that follows, where Lucy and Susan find the stone table cracked and Aslan bounces back to life, is joyful in a way that really sneaks up on you because you watched him die. You sat through that, and now he's back, and he's roaring, and it's loud, and it's bright, and it feels earned. It actually feels earned. Now here's where I'm going to get a little critical because I think the movie actually fumbles something important. In C.S. Lewis's original book, after Edmund is rescued and brought back to Aslan's camp, he personally apologized to each of his siblings. He looks Peter in the eye and he says he's sorry. He does the actual work of making amends, and that act of contrition, the willingness to be humble and admit he was wrong, is a huge part of his character growth in the movie. Aslan just tells everyone not to talk about it anymore. Edmund goes off with Aslan privately. They have a conversation we never hear, and then Aslan basically tells the other kids, leave it in the past, end of scene. And I get why they did that from a pacing standpoint. You are the 2 hours in and you need to get to the battle, but the problem is it short circuits Edmund's entire arc. The forgiveness happened to him rather than being something he actively seeks. He does not have to be humble. He does not have to be vulnerable in front of his siblings. It's just resolved off screen by someone else. that frustrate me because Edmund is genuinely one of the most interesting characters in this story, possibly the most interesting, and the movie kind of lets him off the hook at the crucial moment. There's a scene mid movie where Peter faces one of the white witch wolves and he hesitates. He's holding a sword. This wolf is about to attack and he just can't do it at first. He freezes. Aslan, who is watching, says nothing. He lets Peter work through it himself and Peter kills the wolf. And what I love about this scene and what I think is actually really sophisticated for a blockbuster family film is that Aslan does not save Peter, he watches, and that's intentional because Aslan understands that Peter needs to earn this. He needs to discover he can do it. If Aslan kills the wolf for him, Peter never becomes the High King. He just becomes someone who was saved by a lion. There is a lesson in that about parenting, about mentorship, about leadership. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is step back and let someone struggle because the struggle is where they actually grow. That's a concept that gets a lot of lip service, but very few stories actually dramatize it this well. At the end of the film, the four parents' children are crowned kings and queens of Narnia. Peter, High King, the Magnificent; Susan, Queen, the Gentle; Edmund, King, the Just; Lucy, Queen, the Valiant. And these titles are important because look at what each child needed to become. Lucy needed to become valiant. She spent the whole film being doubted, being told she was imagining things, and she needed to hold on to her truth against the pressure of people she loved and trusted. Edmund needed to become just because he had been profoundly unjust. He had betrayed, he had chosen selfishness, and now he carries a title that is almost a standing reminder of who he chose to become instead. Susan needed to become gentle, which sounds like a diminishment but is not. Susan is the most skeptical, the most cautious, the most rational of the siblings. Gentleness for her is a form of openness, of allowing herself to believe and to feel without always demanding proof. And Peter needed to become magnificent, not in the sense of being flashy or impressive, but in the original sense of the word, which implies greatness of soul, generosity, largeness of spirit. He had to stop being just an older brother, bossing people around, and become something genuinely worth following. The coronation gives all four of them exactly the title that describes who they had to become. That's not an accident, that's beautiful writing. Alright, let's get into the characters, and I mean really get into them, not just what they do, but why they do it, what's going on underneath the surface, and honestly, what I think about them as a person who has watched this film multiple times at very different points in my life. I shall be honest with you, Edmund is the reason I love this story as much as I do because Edmund is the most human character in the entire film, not the most likable, not the most heroic, but the most recognizably, uncomfortably human. Think about what's going on with Edmund before he even gets to Narnia. He's stuck in second son limbo. Peter gets to be the hero. Lucy gets to be the cute youngest one who everyone adores. Susan gets to be the mature, responsible older sister who everyone respects. And Edmund is just there. He's the middle boy. He's snarky and difficult and he does not quite fit anywhere. And here's the thing that does not get talked about enough. Edmund's resentment of Peter is not irrational. Peter genuinely is condescending to him. Peter genuinely does order him around, speak to him dismissively, treat him like a child, even though the age gap is not that large. Edmund's grievances are real, his pain is real, he is just responding to real pain in a completely destructive way. When the White Witch offers him power and status, Edmund does not grab at it because he is evil, he grabs at it because it's the first time anyone has ever told him he is important. That's heartbreaking if you let yourself really sit with it. And the betrayal when he goes to the White Witch and tells her where his siblings are, it's obviously terrible, but I think the film does something subtle and important. It shows Edmund's face when he realized the White Witch was lying to him, when he arrives at her castle and there's no feast waiting, when he is put in a dungeon, when he starts to understand that he was just a piece to be used. The look on Skander Keen's face in this moment is genuinely good acting from a kid who was a teenager. The Turkish delight scene also reveals something about the witch that ties directly to Edward's psychology. She never actually cares about him. She never did. Everything she offered him was a manipulation, and his tragedy is that on some level Edmund knows this, or at least suspects it, and he goes along with it anyway because even fake importance feels better than being invisible. That's honestly kind of devastating. When you think about it, Edmund's arc in this story is a complete one. He goes from someone who sells out his family for the promise of power to someone who, in the climatic battle, charges at the White Witch to destroy her band, not to be a hero, not to win glory, but because he understands that her band is the most dangerous thing on that battlefield and someone need to take it out. It's a tactical, it's a brave, and it cost him terribly. He nearly dies. King the Just, yeah, he earned that. People tend to talk about Peter as the hero of this story because he's the High King and he fights in the big battle, and that's fair from a plot standpoint, but emotionally, narratively, Lucy is the protagonist. She is the lens through which we experience everything. Lucy is also doing something incredibly difficult throughout this film. She is holding on to a truth that she can't prove. She knows what she experienced. She knows Narina is real and everyone she loves, Peter, Susan, even Edmund at first, tells her she is imagining it, that she is confused, that it did not happen, and she does not cave. She is a child. She is being told by older people that she is wrong, and she just does not cave. She keeps saying, I know what I saw. There is something in that which I find genuinely admirable. There is a word for that kind of courage, epistemic courage, the willingness to hold on to what you know is true even when there is social pressure to abandon it, and it's rare. It's rare in adults and it's remarkable in a 10-year-old fictional character. Georgie Henley is extraordinary in this role, and I want to say this clearly. The casting of this film is one of its greatest achievements, and Henley is the crown jewel. She gives Lucy this quality of completely unguarded emotional openness. She is joyful when she should be joyful, terrified when she should be terrified, and when she is grieving over Aslan at the stone table, it's not performed grief, it just hurt. Lucy's relationship with Aslan is also worth noting because it's distinct from how the other children relate to him. For Lucy, Aslan is not an authority figure she is slightly afraid of. He is a friend. There's warmth and ease between them that she does not have to work for. It's just there, and that relationship gives the film some of its most genuinely tender moments. Peter is the character who I think gets shortchanged by the film's need to make him the designated hero figure, because the more interesting version of Peter is the one who does not want to be the hero. At the beginning of the film, Peter's defining mode is responsibility. He is the eldest, he is the one who's supposed to hold everything together in his father's absence, and he resents it, not in the way Edmund resents his position, but in this quieter, more suppressed way. He wishes someone would take care of things so he does not have to. And then Narnia dumps even more responsibility on him. A prophecy, an army, a war. Lead them, Peter, Aslan says, and Peter's response is not excitement, it's fear dressed up as a skepticism. How do you know you can trust him? He asks about Aslan, because if Peter trusts Aslan and follows Aslan, then he has to actually step up, and stepping up means he might fail, and fail you when you are the one everyone's counting on is the most terrifying thing imaginable. William Mosley plays this ambivalence pretty well, actually, though I think the script does not give him quite enough texture to work with. The moments where Peter is most interesting are the moment of doubt, not the moment of triumph. Let's talk about Tilda Swinton for a minute, because she is doing something genuinely extraordinary in this film that I think gets overshadowed by the spectacle around her. The White Witch, Jadis, is one of those villain roles where it would be incredibly easy to go big and campy. She is a sorceress in a white fur coat riding a sleigh. She turns people to stone. She has a dwarf sidekick. The temptation to go full theatrical and ham it up is real. Tilda Swinton does the opposite. She plays the witch with this icy, controlled stillness that is actually way scarier than anything loud would have been. When she turns people to stone, she does not cackle. When she interrogates Edmund, she is almost polite. There is a scene where she loses her temper, and it's genuinely shocking precisely because she was so composed beforehand. And physically, the design of the character is genius. The pale skin, the white hair, the angular feature, the crown that looks like it grew out of her skull. Swinton looks like someone whose veins run in with something colder than blood. It's not a custom design, it's a characterization through aesthetic. What makes the witch genuinely scary and genuinely compelling as a villain rather than just a threat is that her evil is ideological. She believes she has a right to rule. She believes the ancient law support her, and when Aslan outmaneuvers her using a deeper magic she did not know about, her fury is not the fury of someone who is losing. It's the fury of someone who feels cheated. That distinctions matter. She does not think she is wrong. She thinks the universe patriarched her. That's a much more interesting kind of villain. Aslan, the most misunderstood character in the film. Okay, so Aslan, voiced by Liam Neeson, rendered as a CGI line and representing a lot of things depending on how you are approaching the film. Here's my honest take on Aslan in the 2005 adaptation. I think the film makes him slightly less interesting than he is in the book, and I think they made that mistake in a very specific direction. In the book, Aslan is unpredictable. Mr. Beaver says it directly. He's not a tame lion, he's not safe, he's not comfortable. He is good, but good in a way that includes elements that are wild and frightening and not entirely comprehensible. He has humor, he has anger, he has sorrow. He is a full complex presence. In the movie, Aslan is slightly too dignified, slightly too composed. Liam Neeson's voice is perfect for conveying gravity and reassurance, but some of the warmth and the wildness gets lost. There's a scene in the book where Aslan plays with Lucy and Susan before the walk to the stone table. He is silly, he is joyful, he chases them around. In the film, that scene is much more subdued, and I think that actually matters for the emotional impact of the sacrifice, because if Aslan is this distant, noble, slightly cold figure, his death is sad, but it's abstract. But if you have seen him laughing and rolling around and be completely unexpectedly joyful, then his death is unbearable. The film gets close to this but does not quite get there. That said, Liam Neeson's in the quieter, more intimate moments is excellent. When Aslan speaks to Lucy, when he whispers comfort, there's something genuinely moved in Neeson's voice that you can hear even through the voice acting. That's not nothing. Nobody talks about Professor Kirke enough, played by Jim Broadbent in this film. He is in maybe 4 scenes and he has limited dialogue, but he does something that is crucial to the entire story. When Susan and Peter come to him and say essentially, our little sister is claiming she went through the wardrobe into another world and we are worried about her mental health, the professor does not dismiss them. He asks a single question: does your sister generally tell lies? And they say no, she does not. And he says, then how do you explain it? Either she is lying, which you say she does not do, or she is mad, which she does not appear to be. So logic suggests you should consider the third option, that is genuinely good epistemology, that is teaching children how to think about evidence rather than how to dismiss things that make them uncomfortable. And it's delivered with such a calm certainty by Broadbent that you understand immediately why this man is Professor Kirke. There is also, and this is a book detail, that the film only hints at the fact that Kirke himself has been to Narnia. He is one of the children from an earlier story. Narnia is real to him in a way it cannot be to anyone else. When he looks at the wardrobe with that particular expression in a couple of scenes, he knows exactly what's happening and he's not telling. And that adds his whole other layer to his character that makes him endlessly interesting. Alright, let's get into the stuff people miss, or the stuff people know is there but have not fully unpacked. Because this film and the book operates on multiple layers simultaneously, and some of those layers are more visible than others. The most obvious one, the Christian allegory. Okay, so let's just address this head on because it's impossible not to. C.S. Lewis was a devout Christian. He was also one of the most important Christian apologist of the 20th century, the author of Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters, The Problem of Pain, and when he wrote the Narnia books, he infused them with Christian theology. He was pretty open about this. The parallels in these films are not subtle. Aslan is Christ. He is an immortal being, the son of the creator of the world, the emperor beyond the sea, who walk among mortals, is betrayed by one of those he came to save, willingly submit to an unjust death, and then rises again because of a deeper magic that even death cannot overcome. The stone table, when it cracks, echoes of the tearing of the veil in the temple at the moment of Christ's death. Edmund is simultaneously Judas, the betrayer, and humanity in general, guilty in depth, unable to pay what is owed. Aslan's sacrifice covers Edmund's debt, not because Edmund earned it, but because love is irrational that way. The White Witch is invoking the ancient law that say traitors belong to her is the theological concept of the law. The idea that justice demands payment for wrongdoing and the deeper magic that defeats her is grace. The idea that there is love so foundational that it exists before the law itself and that love can dissolve what the law demands. Now Lewis himself was uncomfortable with the word allegory. To describe this, he preferred the word suppositional. The question he was asking was not how do I put Christian theology into a story, but rather what would Christ be like if he appeared in a world like Narnia. That's a slightly different framing, but practically the effect is very similar. And here's what's interesting. The film was very deliberately positioned to appeal to both religious and secular audience. Disney and Walden Media were aware of the success of The Passion of the Christ in 2004, which had demonstrated that there was a huge audience for explicitly Christian-themed entertainment, but they also knew that leaning too hard into the allegory would alienate secular viewers. So the film kind of threads this needle where the Christian parallels are all there if you are looking for them, but if you are not, it still works as a straightforward fantasy adventure story, and for the most part I think they managed that balance. The movie never hit you over the head with it just let the story be what it is. Here's something I did not fully grasp until I rewatched this as an adult. This film is fundamentally about children processing wartime trauma. The parents' children's father is away at war. We never see him. They have been separated from their mother. They are living in a stranger's house. Their world has been disrupted in a way that children have no framework to understand or cope with. And then they find Narnia, and in Narnia they have power, they have purpose, they have a mission that matters. They get to be kings and queens instead of just frightened, displaced children waiting for news from the front. This is actually a really profound way of understanding the escapist function of fantasy. The children do not go to Narnia to run away from reality. They go to Narnia to find a way to be big enough to face reality. When they come back, Lucy finds her courage in Narnia, Peter finds his leadership, Edmund finds his conscience, Susan finds her capacity for trust, and when they come back, literally stumbling out of the wardrobe and back into the professor's house, they are different people, not because Narnia fixed them, but because they were given a space to become who they needed to be. C.S. Lewis wrote this book in the 1950s with children who had experienced the war in mind. He understood that children who live through disruption and violence and uncertainty need stories that help them locate their own power. That's not escapism, that's therapy. The White Witch's curse is that Narnia is always winter and never Christmas, and this sounds like a simple "I will create coldness" metaphor, but it's actually a bit more specific than that. Winter in this context is not just about cold, it's about stasis. Narnia under the witch does not grow, things don't change, there's no spring, no new life, no renewal. The world is locked in a permanent state of frozen misery where nothing can move forward. Sounds familiar? This is a description of depression or of authoritarian stagnation or of any situation where the normal cycle of life, death, and renewal are suppressed by a controlling power that benefits from keeping everything frozen. And the detail that it's never Christmas is pointed. Christmas in the Christian tradition is the moment when God enters the world, the intrusion of the divine into human history. Under the witch's rule, that intrusion is blocked. The divine cannot get in. There is no hope, no joy, no celebration, just winter forever. The arrival of Father Christmas, which some people find kind of jarring and tonally weird in the film, honestly I get that, is actually theologically precise. His arrival means the witch's grip is weakening. The normal order of things, the order that includes joy and gift giving and celebration, is breaking through again. I mentioned this briefly, but I want to expand on it because I think it's one of the most conceptually interesting things Lewis ever wrote. The deep magic, as the witch explained it, is the law. Traitors belong to her. It's being carved into the stone table since the dawn of time. It's foundational, it cannot be broken or overridden. But Aslan knows about a deeper magic, one that was established before time itself began, which states that if a willing and innocent victim dies in a traitor's place, the stone table will crack and that itself will begin working backwards. This is a description of what Christian theology calls substitutionary atonement, the doctrine that Christ takes the punishment that humans deserve and that this act does not merely satisfy the debt but actually transforms the entire framework. Death loses its finality. The law is not overridden but fulfilled in a way that the witch could not anticipate because she did not know there was something older than the law. What I find so philosophically beautiful about this is the idea that love is more foundational than justice. Justice is deep, but love is deeper, and love does not defeat justice. It goes underneath it to a level where justice was always pointing at something greater than itself. Whether you are a Christian or not, that's a beautiful idea that there's something more fundamental than the rules, something that the rules were always trying to approximate, and that when you find it, the rules do not disappear, but they are revealed to have been pointing at something they could not fully express. Okay, here's something I think a lot of people miss or at least never quite articulate. The wardrobe is not just a portal, it's a threshold, and the specific nature of the threshold matters. In traditional folklore and mythology, moving between worlds requires some kind of transition, a ritual, a crossing, a change of state. The wardrobe works as a threshold because it requires you to go further in than feels comfortable. You have to push past the courts, past the point where you can still see the ordinary world into what seems like a dead end, and then suddenly you are somewhere else. This is not an accident. Lewis is describing the experience of fate, of imagination, of any kind of genuine transformation. You have to go past the point where the family. Alright, so before we get into the deep stuff, let me give you just a quick lay of the land if you somehow have not seen this film or if it's been a while. The year is 2005. Walt Disney Pictures and a company called Walden Media, which was known for adapting books for family audience, they team up to bring C.S. Lewis's famous novel to the big screen. The director is Andrew Adamson, who at this point was best known for making Shrek, yes, the green orgy guy. So there's already something interesting happening there. You have got this man who directed a comedy fantasy animated film for DreamWorks, and now he's being handed one of the most beloved fantasy novels in English literary history and told make this work, and honestly he mostly did. The story follows four siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy Pevins. They are British kids during World War II, and because the Nazis are bombing London, their mother sent them to the countryside to stay with this eccentric old professor named Gregory Kirk, played by Jim Broadbent. And while they are there during a game of hide and seek, the youngest, Lucy, played by a first-time actress named Georgie Henley, who was literally 10 years old when they filmed this, she crawls into a wardrobe and finds herself in a completely different world called Narnia. Now Narnia is stuck in an external winter, like it's always been winter for 100 years and it's never Christmas, which by the way is just one of the best way I have ever heard anyone describe a bleak, miserable existence. Always winter, never Christmas. That sentence alone hits different when you are an adult going through a rough patch. The villain keeping Narnia in this frozen state is the White Witch, Jadis, played by Tilda Swinton, who was apparently the very first person cast in this entire production because no one else could be considered for that role, and standing against her is this great golden lion named Aslan, voiced by Liam Neeson, who is exceptionally well. We shall get into that. The film has a budget of around $180 million. It runs about 2 hours and 23 minutes and it was released in December 2005, making it a holiday season blockbuster. That's the surface level, but trust me, there is so much more going on underneath all of it, and that's what we are here for. Okay, so I said I was not going to just recap the whole movie scene by scene. I'm not, but there are specific moments in this film that I think deserve real attention. Moments where the movie is either doing something brilliant or something that really frustrated me, or something that hit you differently as an adult than it did as a child. Let me walk you through the ones that stuck. The film does not start with the wardrobe. It does not start with a fairy tale voiceover. It starts with the inside of a German bomber cockpit and bombs dropping on London. And then we cut to the Pevens family scramble to a bomb shelter. I want to stop here for a second because this is actually a really deliberate creative choice that I think gets overlooked. By starting with the war, by starting with this incredibly real, terrifying human threat, the film is grounding you before it ever takes you to Narnia. It's saying these are real kids with a real war, with a real absent father and a real scared mother. The magic is not an escape from nothing, it's an escape from something genuinely horrible. And then there's this teeny moment that the film used to establish Edmund's character. As the family is running to the shelters during the bombing, Edmund runs back inside the house, which is dangerous, which is almost suicidal, in that moment, and he grabs a photo of his father, and Peter screams at him, "You are so selfish. Why can't you just do as you are told?" Now think about that exchange. Edmund risked his life to save a photo of his dad. That's not selfishness, that's grief. That's a boy who misses his father desperately and can't say it out loud, and his older brother, who's also grieving, by the way, responds with hostility. The entire Edmund arc is set up right there in that one teeny scene, and if you blink, you miss it. This is the scene that made the movie. I'm serious. If this scene had been bad, if it had felt cold or rushed or just technically competent but emotionally empty, the entire film falls apart because everything hints on you believing in the wonder. And here's the thing, they did something incredibly clever with Georgie Henley, the actress playing Lucy. They kept her away from the Narnia set completely until the cameras were rolling. So the first time she ever walked through that wardrobe and saw the snowy forest with the lamppost, that was literally her first time seeing it. Her surprise and her delight and her wonder, that's 100% real. That's not acting, that's a 10-year-old actually experiencing something magical for the first time, and you can feel it, you can absolutely feel it. The lamppost in the snow is such a specific, strange, beautiful image. Like, why is there a Victorian lamppost in the middle of a magical forest? It's make no logical sense, and yet it feels completely right. It feels like something from a dream that you can't quite explain, but that you know you have had before. C.S. Lewis understood that fairy tale logic does not have to be rational, it just has to feel true. The meeting with Mr. Tumnus, the faun, played by Jan McAvoy, is also doing a lot of heavy lifting here, because Tumnus is technically supposed to hand Lucy over to the White Witch. That's his job, that's what he was going to do, and he does not. He has a crisis of conscience and he helps her instead. And McAvoy plays this with such warmth and such subtle guilt that you completely fall for him. He is genuinely one of the best things in this movie. This is probably the scene that has been analyzed the most, and for good reason. So Edmund follows Lucy into Narnia separately, and the very first person he meets is the White Witch riding in her sleigh, and she gives him hot Turkish delight, enchanted Turkish delight that makes you want more and more, and you can never be satisfied. And in exchange for this food, she wants him to bring his siblings to her. Now, on the surface, this is just a villain tempting a child with candy, and sure, that's what it is. But look at what the witch is actually exploiting. Edmund is already feeling marginalized. He is the second youngest, which means he is neither the responsible elders nor the coddled baby. Peter constantly talks down to him. He's never the favorite. He never gets taken seriously. And then this person he meets is the White Witch riding in her sleigh, and she gives him hot Turkish delight, enchanted Turkish delight that make you want more and more, and you can never be satisfied. And in exchange for this food, she wants him to bring his siblings to her. Now on the surface, this is just a villain tempting a child with candy, and sure, that's what it is. But look at what the witch is actually exploiting. Edmund is already feeling marginalized. He is the second youngest, which means he is neither the responsible elders nor the coddled baby. Peter constantly talks down to him. He's never the favorite, he never gets taken seriously. And then this white witch shows up and she calls him a son of Adam, which to us sound like nothing, but in Narnia that's actually meaningful. She treats him with respect, she tells him he's special, she promises him power over his sibling, she says he shall be a king. Think about this from Edmund's perspective for a second. This kid has spent his whole life being told to be quiet, to follow orders, to be more like Peter, and the first person who treats him like he actually matters is the villain. That's dark, that's actually really dark, and the Turkish delight is such a perfect symbol because it tastes incredible but it gives you nothing real. It fills you up with emptiness. It makes you chase something that you will never actually satisfy you. That's not a children's story. That's a description of how addiction works, or how social media work, or how any kind of hollow, flattering manipulation works. Okay, this is the moment. This is the scene that made grown adults cry in movie theaters in 2005, and I understand why. So Aslan, who has agreed to give himself up to the White Witch in Edmund's place because of a deep magic and ancient law, he walks to the stone table alone. Well, not totally alone. Lucy and Susan follow him secretly and they watch from a distance, and the way this scene is filmed, the way they strip Aslan of his mane, the way the creatures of the witch mock him, the way he is tied down and the witch raises her knife. It's incredibly quiet for a blockbuster film. There's no score blasting over it to tell you how to feel. It just happens. And Lucy and Susan sitting there watching, not being able to stop it, just witnessing it. This is genuinely devastating to watch because you understand what's being asked of them. They have to watch something they loved be destroyed and they can't do anything. Now the religious allegory here is absolutely unmistakable, and I shall go deep on that later when we talk about the themes. But even if you strip away all of the theology, even if you approach this as a purely secular story, a powerful good being choosing to die for a guilty party who does not deserve it, just emotionally devastating on its own terms. That's just a heartbreaking premise, no matter what framework you put it in. This resurrection scene that follows, where Lucy and Susan find the stone table cracked and Aslan bounces back to life, is joyful in a way that really sneaks up on you because you watched him die. You sat through that, and now he's back and he's roaring, and it's loud and it's bright and it feels earned. It actually feels earned. Now here's where I'm going to get a little critical because I think the movie actually fumbles something important. In C.S. Lewis's original book, after Edmund is rescued and brought back to Aslan's camp, he personally apologized to each of his siblings. He looks Peter in the eye and he says he's sorry. He does the actual work of making amends, and that act of contrition, the willingness to be humble and admit he was wrong, is a huge part of his character growth in the movie. Aslan just tells everyone not to talk about it anymore. Edmund goes off with Aslan privately. They have a conversation we never hear, and then Aslan basically tells the other kids, leave it in the past, end of scene. And I get why they did that from a pacing standpoint. You are the 2 hours in and you need to get to the battle, but the problem is it short circuits Edmund's entire arc. The forgiveness happened to him rather than being something he actively. Familiar things stop reassuring you into what feels like darkness or emptiness before you break through to something new. And the reason the wardrobe does not work for everyone, the reason Edmund goes back and lies about it, the reason Susan dismisses it is that they are not going all the way in. They are staying close enough to the door to retreat. You have to be willing to fully enter the experience. That's a metaphor for a lot of things: commitment, creative risk, grief, spiritual development, an experience that requires you to leave the safety of the familiar and trust that something's on other side. The wardrobe is not just a cool magic trick, it's a description of how transformation works. There is a detail in this film that I think is genuinely haunting and that the movie does not fully linger on, but should. The courtyard of the White Witch castle is full of Narians she has turned to stone, creatures who resisted it, her animals, centaurs, fauns, frozen in the moment of their defiance. After Aslan's resurrection, one of the first things he does is breathe on each stone creature to bring them back to life, and they wake up confused and frightened, not understanding where they are or how long they have been frozen. This is a very specific image of people under totalitarian rule, people who resisted the regime and were erased, not killed exactly, but frozen, removed from the living world, made into decorative objects in the palace of the power that silenced them. And they don't know how long it's been. They don't know how much time they have lost. There is something deeply sad in that idea that I think children watching this film feel instinctively, even if they cannot articulate it, and adults watch it with a very different, grimmer understanding of what kind of regimes actually do this to people. Here's where I want to take a step back from the film itself and talk about why this story keeps mattering. Because it came out in 2005, it's based on a book from 1950, and yet somehow it keeps feeling relevant, and I have been thinking about why that is. The Turkish delight thing, let's be honest, that scene worked because every single person watching it has been Edmund at some point, not necessarily betraying their family for candy, but responding to flattery, to being told they are special, to someone who seemed to see them in a way other people did not. The White Witch does not grab Edmund with brute force. She offers him warmth, food, recognition, power. She targets the exact void he is carrying around, and this is exactly how manipulation works in real life. People who want to use you don't lead with obvious requests. They lead with gifts. They lead with I see you, I understand you, you deserve more than you are getting. And that's seductive. That's incredibly seductive, especially when you are already feeling invisible. The lesson is not don't accept things from strangers. That's too simple. The lesson is be very suspicious of anyone who seems to understand exactly what you want before you have fully articulated it yourself. Be suspicious of flattery that asks nothing of you at first, because the ask always comes eventually. Edmund is not stupid. Edmund is lonely and resentful and seen in exactly the right way by exactly the wrong person, and that can happen to any of us. Susan is fascinating to me because she is the skeptic. She is the one who demands proof, who will not commit, who keeps finding reason why this can't be real. and the film sort of treats this as a weakness she has to learn to trust, to open up. But here's what I actually think about Susan: her instinct to verify, to question, not just accept things on faith. That's not a flaw, that's rational, that's epistemically healthy behavior. The problem is not that Susan doubts. The problem is that when the evidence becomes undeniable, when she is literally standing in Narnia surrounded by talking animals and centaurs, she still cannot fully commit. At some point, the rational move is to update your belief based on overwhelming evidence, and Susan is slow to do that. What the film is really showing, I think, is the difference between healthy skepticism and defensive skepticism. Healthy skepticism says, show me evidence. Defensive skepticism says, no evidence will ever be enough because I am afraid of what believing would mean. And Susan is afraid. She is afraid that if Narnia is real, that means the world is larger and stranger and less predictable than she thought it was. And that's frightening. It's easier to say it's a game. This maps onto the real world in a lot of ways. It's not just a religious point, it applies to any belief, any commitment, any relationship. At some point, continuing to demand more evidence is actually a way of avoiding the vulnerability of actually caring about something. The Edmund forgiveness arc is one of the most honest depositions of forgiveness in mainstream cinema, in my opinion, even though, as I mentioned, the film softens it a bit from the book. Because here's what forgiveness actually look like in this story. Peter still has complicated feeling about Edmund for a while. You can see it. The relationship between the brothers is not magically healed the moment Aslan says we don't need to talk about it. There's still tension, there's still awkwardness. Edmund has to prove through action that he is changed, not just be told he is forgiven and then goes to on that. Real forgiveness is like that. It's not a single moment where everything is resolved. It's a process. The person who was hurt has to choose repeatedly not to hold the past against the person who hurt them, and the person who caused the harm has to earn trust back through consistent behavior over time. Neither of those things happen overnight. What the story gets right is that Edmund does earn it back. His act of destroying the witch wand in the climatic battle that nearly kills him, that's not him seeking redemption. He's already been forgiven. That's just who he became. That's the proof that the forgiveness landed on fertile ground. I want to talk about middle child dynamic for a second, because this film, and Edmund in particular, does something really insightful here. Edmund feels unloved. He acts out. He is difficult, he is resentful, and the film initially presents this as a character flaw. But as you watch more carefully, you realize Edmund's family actually does love him. His mother clearly loves all her children. Even Peter, who is harsh with him, genuinely cares about him. When Edmund is captured by the witch, Peter's immediate response is, I have to go get him, not he made his bed. Not he deserves it, he goes after Edmund. But love that is not expressed in the language the other person can hear does not land. Edmund experiences love as something withheld from him because the way his family express it does not match the way he needs to receive it. He needs to be told he is important, that he is valued specifically, that his existence matters. Not just in relation to what he does, but in himself, and he is not getting that. So he goes looking for it from the witch. That's a really specific kind of family pain that a lot of people recognize. and it's worth naming. Sometimes the problem is not that love is absent, sometimes the problem is that love is present but not being communicated in a way that the other person can feel it. Edmund's transformation is partially about finding a new sense of self-worth that does not depend on external validation, but it's also about his family learning to tell him more clearly that he matters. I keep coming back to the opening of this film. These are children with an absent father and overwhelmed mother who have been removed from their home and placed in a stranger's house during an active war, and then on top of all of that, they are given a prophecy that says they have to save an entire world, and the film plays this somewhat heroically, which is how it should be played for narrative purpose. But underneath the heroism, there's something that borders on tragic. These kids never really got to just be kids. Peter becomes a general, Susan becomes a diplomat, Edmund becomes a warrior, Lucy is actually the one who gets to be most herself throughout, which is maybe why she ends up being the emotional center. The real world connection here is about how often we put adult-sized burdens on children without noticing, not through malice, usually just through circumstances. Children of parents going through divorce carrying adult emotional weight. Children in poverty carry adult practical weight. Children of sick parents carry adult caretaking weight. And like the Pavinses, many of those children grow up stronger for it in some ways, but also carrying wounds that don't always show on the surface. The coronation at the end of this film, where they are made king and queens, is touching, but there is also something bittersweet about it. If you are paying attention, these children had their childhood interrupted by war, then by Narnia, then by kingship. They grew up very fast and eventually they shall have to go back through the wardrobe and be children again. That's not straightforward. That's genuinely complicated. I think good storytelling leaves room for that complication. Okay, so The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is only the first film in what was supposed to be a franchise. I think it's worth talking about how it compared to what came after, because the trajectory of this series is actually a really interesting case study in how franchises rise and fall. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe vs Prince Caspian 2008. Prince Caspian is a darker, more overtly action-oriented film, and in some ways that makes sense. The story itself is darker and more political than the first book, but the shift in tone between the two films is pretty jarring, and I don't think it's entirely from narrative reason. Here's my honest take. I think Prince Caspian tried to be Lord of the Rings in a way that the first film resisted. Andrew Adamson directed both, but the second film is noticeably grimmer, longer, and more focused on battle sequence and political intrigue than on the emotional and spiritual heart of the story. The first film has this quality of wonder, even in its darkest moment. There is a light nearby. Prince Caspian does not have that. It's competent, it's well made in many ways, but the magic, literally and figuratively, is largely absent, and audience felt it. The first film grossed around $745 million worldwide. Prince Caspian, despite having a larger budget of $225 million, made about $418 million. That's nearly half the box office performance, and for a movie that cost more to make, that's a disaster in franchise terms. The drop-off is significant, and critics were harsher too. Prince Caspian's Rotten Tomatoes score is lower than the first film, and many reviews noted the diminishment of the story's spiritual and emotional dimension in a favor of spectacle. By the time we get to the Voyage of the Dawn creator, Disney had actually dropped out. Ford took over distribution. The budget was cut dramatically down to around $150 million, and it shows not necessarily in production quality but in the sense that everyone involved seemed to be operating under constraint they are not entirely free to ignore. The film made about $415 million, which sound okay until you factor in the promotional cost and the theatrical split. It's barely profitable at best, and thematically, Dawn Creator is the book that is most spiritually ambitious. It's basically a journey toward heaven, an odyssey of the soul. The film reduced most of that to a fairly generic collect the magic object quest structure, which is exactly the wrong approach, so that the registry of the franchise is pretty clear. The first film honored the source material most faithfully and performed best. Each subsequent film moved further from the emotional and spiritual heart of Lewis's work, and each subsequent film performed was both critically and commercially. That's not a coincidence. The first film understood something that the sequel forget. The magic of Narnia is not the battles or the creature or the spectacle. It's the sense of a world that is real, more real in some way than the real world. It's the lamppost in the snow. It's the moment Lucy first pushes through the court and the air change. It's Aslan's breath bringing stone creature back to life. That quality, call it wonder, call it enchantment, call it the numinous. It's the whole point. Without it, Narnia is just another fantasy universe. With it, it's one of the most beloved imaginary worlds ever conceived. The first film has it. The sequels progressively lost it, and the Netflix adaptation coming with Greta Gerwig will need to rediscover it from scratch. Alright, numbers time, because I think the commercial history of this film is actually really interesting and tell you something important about the film industry in 2005 and about what audience were actually responding to. $180 million in 2005 dollars. That is an enormous amount of money for any film. For context, the third Lord of the Rings film, Return of the Ring, had a production budget of around $94 million. So Narnia cost roughly twice as much as one of the defining fantasy epics of that era. What did they spend it on? Primarily the visual effects, creating the world of Narnia, the battle sequence, the creatures, the White Witch's castle. Weta Workshop, the New Zealand effects company that had done Lord of the Rings, was heavily involved. Richard Taylor Weta's had deliberately designed Narnia to be lighter and more colorful than Middle-earth, less grimdark, more fairy tale vibrancy. The principal photography took place mainly in New Zealand, with additional locations in Poland, the Czech Republic, and the United Kingdom. Filming began in June 2004 and ran through the end of that year. Director Andrew Adamson made the interesting decision to shoot in roughly chronological order so that the child actors would naturally develop and change over the course of filming, which would mirror their characters' development. The casting process alone was staggering. According to Wikipedia, Adamson reviewed 2,500 audition tapes, personally met 1,800 children, and workshopped 400 before landing on the four Pevins actor. William Moseley beat out 3,000 other boys for the role of Peter and cute school to prepare for it. That level of commitment to getting the casting right, particularly for role this central is not something you see in every franchise film. Here is the plain fact. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the White Robe grossed approximately $745 million worldwide against its $180 million budget. That is a massive, unambitious hit. It was the third highest grossing film of 2005, behind only Revenge of the Sith and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Its opening weekend in the United States was around $65 million, not a record breaker by itself, but an extremely strong start for a December release in the pre-streaming era. And the film had tremendous legs, meaning it kept drawing audience week after week rather than dropping off dramatically after the opening weekend. December releases aimed at families tend to have long runs, and Narnia benefited from this. The DVD performance was equally remarkable in 2006, combining both the original and extended edition. The home release was the first highest grossing DVD in North America that year, bringing in over $332 million. In an era when DVD sales were still enormous, that's a significant number. Disney had been positioning this as their answer to Harry Potter, their tentpole fantasy franchise that would generate sequel and merchandise and cultural momentum, and on the basis of the first film, that plan seemed completely viable. The critical consensus was broadly positive, but with reservation. The film holds a strong score on Rotten Tomatoes, and most reviewers praise the performances, especially Tilda Swinton and the child actor, the production design, and the faithfulness to the source material. The criticism that kept appearing were pretty consistent. The pacing in the first act is slow, the CGI is uneven, some of it looked great even now, some of it very much look like 2005. The Christian allegory makes some secular viewers uncomfortable, and the film does not fully commit to the deeper emotional and spiritual complexity of the book. The Academy agreed it was impressive enough to nominate it for Best Sound Mixing and Best Visual Effect, and it won the Oscar for Best Makeup. At the BAFTA Awards, it won Best Makeup and Hair. So from a technical standpoint, the industry recognized the craftsmanship. Audience reception was genuinely warm. People who had read the books loved seeing the world brought to life. People who had not read the book found it an engaging fantasy adventure. Religious audience, particularly Christian audience, responded very enthusiastically, recognizing the allegory and feeling seen by a major studio production that did not shy away from it. The voices of dissent came from two directions: secular critics who felt the allegory was overbearing, and literary purists who felt the film had stripped away some of the book's more subtle texture. Both groups had valid points, but neither group's objection significantly dented the film's commercial performance or its place in popular culture. Alright, this is the part I have been looking forward to because I have genuine specific opinion about this film that have evolved over the years, and I want to lay them out as honestly as I can. No fandom, defensiveness, no reflexive criticism, just what actually works and what actually does not. I have said this multiple times, but I want to say it again because I don't think it can be overstated. The four actors playing the pensive sibling are extraordinarily well cast. This is not always the case with child actors in fantasy films, where the performances can range from acceptable to actively distracting. Georgie Henley as Lucy is the obvious standout because she has the most material and the most screen time, but Skander Keynes as Edmund is doing something really difficult, playing a character who is genuinely unpleasant for much of the film while never losing the audience sympathy. and he pulls it off. Anna Popplewell gives Susan a quiet intelligence and watchfulness that keeps the character from being boring even when the script does not give her much to do. And William Mosley does Peter's arc from uncertain to confident in a way that feels earned rather than mechanical. These are real performances, not just kids reading lines. Real performances. I have already talked about her at length, but she deserves to be in this section too because she is the thing that makes the film feel genuinely dangerous. Without the credible villain, the whole story collapses. And Swinton is not just credible, she is magnetic, she commands every scene. She is in with the stillness that somehow generates more menace than any amount of screaming and cackling would have. Her voice, that controlled, almost effortless delivery, is perfect. There is intelligence in her white witch. There is even, in a twisted way, a kind of bounded dignity. She believes she being cheated by the universe, and Swinton lets you see that without ever making the witch sympathetic. New Zealand stand in for Narnia brilliantly. The landscapes are enormous and otherworldly without being alienating. The snow-covered forest of the White Witch's domain feels genuinely cold and oppressive, and the way they use real landscape rather than relying entirely on green screen, at least for a significant portion of the film, give it a physicality that a lot of modern fantasy movies have lost. The lamppost, the stone table, the White Witch's sleigh, these iconic images from the book are rendered with real care and feel exactly right, not identically to how every reader imagined them necessarily, but right in a deeper way. They feel true to the spirit of what Lewis described. Harry Gregson Williams, who had worked with Adamson on the Shrek film, composed the score and is excellent. It's not as iconic as Howard Shaw's Lord of the Rings work, but it's warm and sweeping and emotionally intelligent. The 75-piece orchestra, 140-member choir, and the use of folk instruments give the score a textual richness that serves the film's blend of the grounded and the magical. The song Wunderkind by Alanis Morissette, which plays over the end credits, was controversial among some fans, but I actually like it. It's a reflection on wonder and growth that fit the film theme pretty well. This is the emotional peak of the film, and it works largely because of the restraint, the near silence as Aslan walked to the stone table, the sound of Lucy and Susan crying, the moment the table breaks and the light change. The film tells the audience to feel this without being bludgeoned by the score or by dramatic close-up or by any of usual tricks blockbusters used to manufacture emotion. It's directed with actual confidence. Here's where I have to be honest. Some of the CGI in this film has not aged well or at all. The scene where the children and the beavers run across the ice, that looks pretty rough by modern standards. The animated Aslan is mostly convincing. The first simulation was genuinely state of the art for 2005, but there are moments where he does not quite interact with the environment correctly, where the illusions slip just enough to remind you are looking at pixels. This is not entirely fair criticism because the CGI standards change and what looks acceptable in 2005 looks dated in 2026. But it's still worth noting that the film's reliance on digital effects was both its greatest technical achievement and its greatest technical vulnerability. The climatic battle of Beruna is fine. It's big and it's loud and it has some impressive imagery, but it does not have the emotional weight it should have. You watch armies of CGI creatures clash and it feels generic. The personal stakes, Peter fighting, Edmund nearly dying, Lucy healing people, these are present, but they get lost in the spectacle. This is the thing I mentioned earlier about the film trying to be a little bit too much like Lord of the Rings. The Pelennor field in Return of the King works because you know these characters, you have spent 3 films with them, you understand what each of them is fighting for. The Battle of Beruna happened in the first film of a franchise and you have barely met most of the creatures involved. The scale does not land because the emotional investment is not deep enough yet. The film spent a generous amount of time in its first half establishing the world, the characters and the relationships, and then the second half has to cover Edmund's capture, Aslan's sacrifice, his resurrection, and an entire war in less than an hour. It's too compressed. Moment that should breathe get translated. The White Witch that is shockingly brief. She is just gone suddenly in the middle of the battle, and it happened so fast you almost miss it. After all, build up around her as threat. She deserves a more deliberate, weighty ending. The way she goes out in the film feels almost accidental. I have mentioned this, but it belongs in this section. Removing Edward's apology to his sibling from the film is a genuine mistake. It's the most important moment in his arc and is handled with an off-screen conversation that the audience never get to see. Whatever Aslan said to Edmund in private, we shall never know, and the film suffers for it. I'm sorry, I like William Moseley. I think he does what he can with what he is given, but Peter as written in this film is never as interesting as Edmund or Lucy. He is the hero without much of the interiority that makes heroes compelling. We see him be scared, we see him be brave, we see him be a king, but we don't really know what makes him specifically Peter rather than any other boy who could have stepped into this role. The book gives Peter more dimension, his anguish over putting Susan and Lucy in danger, his complicated relationship with not wanting to be a leader while having to be one, and the film flattens him slightly into a standard reluctant hero become actual hero arc that we have seen many times before. The film takes a long time to get to Narnia. The London bombing sequence, the arrival at the professor's house, the games of hide and seek, the initial disbelief, these are all necessary, but some of them are probably about 5 minutes longer than they need to be. For a contemporary audience, especially a younger one, the patience required to get through the first 30 minutes or so before you start getting to the magic is a real ask. I touch on this in the character section. Liam Neeson's voice is majestic but cool. The film's Aslan is authority and goodness, but not quite joy, and without the joy, without the sense that this being love, life, and love, laughter, and love the creature of Narnia with a full warmth, even silly love, his sacrifice does not hit as hard as it could. You are sad because a good thing died, but you had been devastated if you had truly felt how alive he was. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is a really good film that falls just short of being a great film. The components are there, the casting is excellent, the source material is extraordinary, the production values are mostly impressive, the emotional beats are in roughly the right places, but it plays it a little safe in the wrong moments. It trusts the spectacle a little too much and the quietness a little too little. The best moments of this film are the quiet ones, Lucy in the forest, the stone table at night, Aslan speaking gently to a frightened girl, Mr. Tumnus playing a lullaby. Those moments are genuinely beautiful and genuinely special. The film is at its weakest when it tries to be an action adventure blockbuster and forget that the thing that made Narnia beloved for 55 years before this movie existed was not the battles or the magic. It was the sense of a world that was real and good and worth fighting for. A world that felt like home to readers before they ever opened the book. So, what do I actually think about the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? After all of that, I think it's a film that I love despite its flaws, and that's a different from just thinking it's good. There are plenty of objectively better made films that I feel nothing about, and this one, with its pacing issues and its soft pedal CGI and its slightly rushed second half, this one matters to me. It matters because it understood something that so many big fantasy adaptations miss, that the magic has to feel earned, that you cannot just throw special effects at the screen and expect audience to care. You have to make them believe in the world and, more importantly, in the people who live in it. And this film makes you believe in Lucy utterly, completely, and because you believe in Lucy, you believe in Narnia, and because you believe in Narnia, everything that happened there, the sacrifice, the resurrection, the coronation, all of it lands with emotional weight. That's not a small achievement. Plenty of films with better budget and better technology have failed to do that one basic thing. I also think this film is important culturally in a way that goes beyond its entertainment value. It introduced millions of people, especially young people in the 2000s, to a story that has genuine depth, to a story that asks serious questions about sacrifice, about loyalty, about what you do when the people you love make terrible choices, about whether love can exist in the same universe as justice, and if so, which one wins. Those are not children's questions, those are human questions, and C.S. Lewis answered them, or at least pointed toward answers, through the medium of a story about children and a wardrobe and a lion who died and come back. I am genuinely curious of what Greta Gerwig does with the Netflix adaptation, because I think she is someone who understands warmth and complexity and the specific texture of growing up, and those are exactly the qualities that the 2005 film needed more of, and the source material is absolutely full of. But whatever happened next, the 2005 film will always be the one that brought this world to life for my generation, and for all its imperfection, I don't think anyone who watched it as a child will ever completely forget what it felt like to see Lucy push through those cords and step into the snow. There's something in that image that is, I keep coming back to this world, true, not factually true, obviously, but true in the way that the best stories are true, pointing at something real about what it means to be human, to be curious, to be brave, to believe in things you can't prove, to keep going through the dark until you come out somewhere you did not expect. Always winter, never Christmas, but then the table cracks and it's spring and Aslan is running. So that's it. That's my take on the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I have covered the key moments, the psychology of these fascinating characters, all the hidden meaning that Lewis layered into that story, the real-world lesson that keep making this story feel relevant decades after it was written, the box office reality that it was an absolute monster hit, even if the sequels could not hold on, and the honest strength and weakness of the film itself. But now I want to hear from you. Did you grow up with this movie? Did you read the book first or see the film first? Do you think the Christian allegory makes the story richer, or does it bother you? And the big one, do you think Edmund is actually the most interesting character in the whole thing? Or am I completely wrong about that? Drop it in the comments. Genuinely, I read them, I argue with people in them. I want to know what you think. And if you are new here and this kind of deep dive analysis is your thing, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. The whole ritual. We do this for a lot of film. Some you have seen 100 times and think you know everything about. Some you have been surprised I'm covering, but the goal is always the same. Actually think about these stories, not just watch them, because the best ones are always more than they appear to be. Narnia is. I shall see you in the next one.